The night the spirits first spoke, the village of Incala was quiet. The moon hung low over the savannah, a pale silver eye watching the earth. Huts with round mud walls and grass roofs slept in the warm darkness. Only the central fire still burned, its orange light licking the black sky, throwing shadows that danced around the great baobab tree. The drums had stopped hours ago. The children were asleep. The hunters were home. The elders had told their stories and gone to rest. Only one person was still awake. A little girl named Amina sat by the dying fire, hugging her knees. She was small and thin, with bright eyes that always seemed to be asking questions. The other children laughed at her because she was afraid of deep water and never joined the river games. Amina stared into the glowing embers. They pulsed like tiny hearts. Then she heard it. A whisper, soft like wind in tall grass. Amina. She looked up quickly. No one stood near the fire. The village circle was empty. The night was still. She rubbed her eyes and listened. Amina. The sound came again, this time from the direction of the old baobab, the tree the elders said was older than kings. Older than their grandfathers' grandfathers. A chill crawled along her arms. Everyone in Incala knew the rule. No child should go near the baobab after dark. It was the meeting place of spirits and ancestors. At night, it belonged to them. Amina's heart thumped hard. Maybe it was only the wind. Maybe it was a dream. She told herself she would count to 10, then run to her mother's hut and forget about it. 1, 2, 3. The whisper came again, clearer, like a breath right by her ear. Amina, child of Incala, come. This time the fire in front of her flared up blue for a moment, then fell back to orange. Amina gasped. She stood up without knowing why. Her legs were shaking. Her bare feet were dusty and cold. The village was silent, but the air felt full, like many eyes were watching from the dark. She took one slow step toward the baobab tree, then another. Behind her, the last flame snapped and went out. The village of Incala slept on, not knowing that on this night, under the silver eye of the moon, a child had been called by the spirits. And once the spirits chose someone, nothing ever stayed the same. The next morning, Amina tried to act normal. She helped her mother sweep the yard. She fetched water from the river in a small calabash bowl. She watched the boys practice with small spears near the edge of the village. But all the while, her mind stayed with the baobab tree and the strange whisper. Had she dreamed it? Had she imagined the blue flame? She did not tell her mother. She did not tell her friends. She was afraid they would laugh, or worse, that they would believe her. Because in Incala, being called by the spirits was not a small thing. By midday, the sun was high and hot. The women pounded millet, their wooden pestles rising and falling in a steady rhythm. The smell of smoke and cooking fish drifted through the air. Then the first sign came. The village well ran dry. When the children lowered the bucket, they heard only a hollow echo. No water splashed. The rope burned their hands as they pulled it back up, empty and dusty. "The well has never been dry," muttered one of the elders, a tall man with a white beard named Elder Kofi. He touched the stone edge of the well as if it were a sick child. "Not in all my years." The women began to murmur.
Our water was life.
Without it, the village could not cook, could not drink, could not live. "We will fetch from the river," someone said. But the fear had already started. That evening, as the hunters returned with their catch, the second sign came. The sky turned a strange deep red before sunset, red like spilled palm oil, and a cold wind blew across the warm savannah. The drums started on their own, though no one was beating them. Sound was light but clear, like fingers tapping from far away. "Who is playing?" a child asked. "No one," whispered his mother, pulling him close. The warriors stood with their spears in hand, looking around with sharp eyes. The king of Incala, King Jabari, came out of his hut, his lion-skin cloak hanging from his shoulders. "The land is restless," said Elder Kofi. "The ancestors are trying to speak." Later, when the sky was dark, the third sign came. The central fire would not light. The strongest men brought dry wood. The women brought palm oil. The best firemaker of the village, Old Mama Zuri, tried again and again with flint and stone. Sparks jumped, but each small flame died at once, as if an unseen hand was pinching it out. The people began to tremble. "The spirits have turned their face from us," someone whispered. Amina stood at the back of the crowd, hidden behind taller bodies. Her heart pounded. She remembered the night whisper, the blue flame, her name being called. What if? Oh. What if the spirits were angry? What if they were calling her for a reason? That night, as fear spread through Nkala like smoke, the elders gathered under the baobab tree. They spoke in low voices, their staffs leaning against the roots. Amina could not hear their words, but she saw their worried faces. She saw King Jabari look up at the dark sky and say something that made everyone fall silent. The next morning a drum was beaten 3 times slow, deep, serious. The entire village was called to gather. Amina swallowed hard. Her hands shook. She knew, before anyone said a word, that this would be about the spirits. And deep inside, a quiet voice whispered, "They did not just call the village Amina, they called you." Under the baobab tree, the air felt heavy. Men, women, and children formed a wide circle. The elders stood in the center, along with King Jabari and the village priestess, Mama Essie, who wore cowrie shells in her hair and white clay on her face. The wind was slow and hot. Somewhere far away, a hornbill cried. "A dark shadow has fallen over Nkala," King Jabari began. His voice was deep and strong, but today it carried worry. "Our well is dry. Our fire refuses to burn. Even the animals avoid our fields. These are signs." Mama Essie raised her staff, which was carved with symbols of waves and stars. "Last night," she said, "I walked in the land of dreams. The ancestors came to me. Their faces were hidden, but their voices were clear. The crowd leaned in, silent. They said, 'Your village broke an old promise. The land is waiting. The spirits are watching. Only one who is small, yet brave, can walk the forgotten path and make things right.' The people began to murmur who was small, who was brave, who would the spirits choose." Mama Essie went on. "In my dream, I saw a child. I could not see her face, but I saw her bare feet. I saw dust. I saw the old baobab. I heard a name carried by the wind. She closed her eyes and lifted her head. The name was Amina." The world seemed to stop. Amina felt every eye turned to her at once. Her legs wanted to run, but they would not move. Her hands felt like they were floating. "Amina," someone whispered. "The quiet girl. She is so small. She is afraid of the river," another child said. Her mother gasped and pulled her close. "There must be a mistake," she cried. "She is only a child." But Mama Essie shook her head slowly and pointed her staff at Amina. "Come forward, child." Amina's heart hammered in her chest. The ground felt like it was very far away. Still, her feet began to move. She stepped into the circle, the eyes of the entire village pressing on her skin. She stood before the priestess. Mama Essie looked deep into Amina's eyes, searching for something. "You've heard them already, haven't you?" Mama Essie said softly. The voices in the night. Tears stung Amina's eyes. Her lips trembled as she whispered. "At the fire. The night before, the well ran dry. They called my name." A hush fell over the crowd. "The spirits have chosen," said Elder Kofi. King Jabari frowned. "She is young," he said. "The journey to the sacred river is dangerous, even for hunters. The forest is deep, the mountain path is steep. What if she does not return?" Mama Essie turned to him. "If the chosen does not go, the curse will grow. The land will crack. Our animals will die. The drums will be silent forever." The words hit the people like a strong wind. They swayed with fear. Mama Essie placed a hand on Amina's shoulder. Her voice softened. "Child, the spirits do not choose by size or by strength of arm. They see inside the heart. Somewhere inside you there is a courage even you do not know." Amina swallowed. Her whole body shook. She wanted to shout, "No," choose someone else. She wanted to run and hide in her mother's arms. But deep beneath her fear, something small and warm flickered like a tiny flame that refused to die. Where must I go?" Amina asked. "To the river of echoes beyond the forest and the mountain," said Mama Essie. "There the spirits wait. You must ask them what promise our people broke, what price must be paid to heal the land." Amina looked around the circle. She saw fear, hope, doubt, and belief in so many faces. Some pitied her. Some did not think she could do it. But others, quietly, were already depending on her. The little flame inside her grew just a bit stronger. I will go, she said in a small but clear voice. Her mother began to cry softly. The crowd gasped. Eld. Kofi nodded with pride. Mama Essie's eyes shone. The turning point had come. A girl who was afraid of the river had just agreed to walk a path no one else dared to take. Amina left at dawn. The sky was still purple when her mother tied a small leather charm around her neck. For protection, she said, hands shaking. Come back to me, my child. Mama Essie gave her a staff carved from sacred wood and a small gourd of water. Elder Kofi placed his wrinkled hand on her head and whispered a blessing in an old language she did not understand but felt deep in her bones. As Amina walked away from the village, she heard the low beat of a drum behind her, slow, steady, like a heartbeat pushing her forward. The forest rose in front of her, tall and dark. The trees watched like silent guards. Strange birds called from hidden branches. Every crack of a twig made her jump. She wanted to turn back. But every time she thought of Enkalov, the dry well, the fear in her mother's eyes, the silent fire, she forced herself to take another step. Hours passed. She walked under green shadows. She crossed a narrow path where ants marched in long lines. She climbed over twisted roots that grabbed at her toes. Once she heard something large moving in the bushes and froze, holding her breath. But nothing came out. As the sun climbed high, she reached the foot of the Stoneback Mountain, a long ridge rising like a giant's spine. The path up was steep and rough. Her feet hurt. Her throat was dry. She sat on a rock and began to cry softly. I cannot do this, she whispered. I am only Amina. I am not a warrior. I am not a hunter. Why did the spirits choose me? The wind moved gently around her, carrying the smell of dust and leaves. Then she heard a different sound, a soft humming, a voice like an old song. She looked up. An old woman stood on the path above her. Her back was a little bent, and she wore a faded cloth with patterns like waves and stars, the same symbols carved in Mama Essie's staff. Her hair was white as ash. Her eyes were bright and sharp. Why do you cry, child of Inkala? The old woman asked. Kamina wiped her tears. The path is too hard, she said. I am afraid. I do not know if I can reach the River of Echoes. The old woman nodded slowly. Fear is not your enemy, she said. But letting fear decide your steps is. Amina frowned. Who are you? It's an old traveler, the woman replied with a small smile. Walk with me. I know the mountain. Together they climbed. The old woman moved slowly, but never seemed tired. As they walked, she told stories. Long ago, she said, your people made a promise to the spirits. When the land gave plenty of fish in the river, grain in the fields, rain in the right season, they promised to always give thanks, to share with the poor, to never let greed rule their hearts. Amina listened, breathing hard as she climbed. Did they forget? She asked. The old woman's eyes darkened. Yes, she said. They grew proud. They built bigger huts. They stored more grain. They said the blessings were only from their own hard work. They laughed less at the fire. They gave less to the hungry. And they broke their promise. Amina lowered her head. Shame pricked her chest, even though she had not been born when that promise was made. But I am just a child, she said. What can I do to fix what they broke? The old woman stopped and looked at her with deep, warm eyes. Sometimes the smallest hands can carry the heaviest truth, she said. At the River of Echoes, you must be honest. You must not try to hide your people's wrongs. Spirits do not listen to lies. They reached the top of the ridge. Below, in the distance, Amina saw a silver line cutting through the land. The river, she breathed. Yes, said the old woman. Go down. The spirits are waiting. Amina turned to thank her, but where the old woman had stood, there was now only empty rock and wind. Her skin tingled. She understood. She had just walked beside one of the ancestors. The truth was heavier now. The journey was not only about her courage, it was about facing the wrong of her whole village. And the spirits would not be gentle. By the time Amina reached the River of Echoes, the sky was deep blue. The river moved slowly, like a great snake of silver, whispering over stones. The air was cool and wet. Fireflies floated like tiny stars above the grass. The sound of running water filled her ears and her heart. Amina stepped to the edge. Her legs were shaking again. The river was wider and deeper than any she had seen. She remembered all her life being afraid of deep water. Now the fear felt like a hand on her throat. She squeezed the staff in her hands. Spirits of the river, she called, her voice thin. Spirits of the land, ancestors of Incala. I am Amina, the one you called. I have come. For a moment, nothing changed. Then the water shivered. Ripples moved across the surface, though no wind blew. The sound of the river grew louder, rising like a chorus. A cold mist climbed from the water and wrapped around Amina's legs, her waist, her shoulders. She wanted to run, but her feet felt fixed to the earth. A shape rose from the river. At first it was only mist. Then it became a tall figure made of water and light, with eyes like bright stars and a voice like many drums. Amina of Enkala, the spirit said. You stand at the place where truth cannot hide. Amina's heart pounded so loudly she could barely hear. Our village is cursed, she said. Our well is dry, our fire will not burn, the animals avoid us. We've been told we broke an old promise. Tell me what we must do to make things right. The spirit's eyes flashed. Your people forgot their thanks, it said. They took and took from the land. They left the poor hungry. They bragged instead of bowing their heads in gratitude. Their hearts grew hard, so the land closed its hand. Tears filled Amina's eyes. Please, she begged. Do not let Nikala die. Tell me how to save my people. The river spirit looked down at her, its gaze like heavy rain. There is only one way, it said. Someone must offer what is most precious. A gift, with no promise of return. A sacrifice of the heart. Amina's throat tightened. What? What does that mean? She whispered. The water around her swirled. Faces formed in the mist. Elders, hunters, children, mothers. All of Incala seemed to be looking at her. Your people must choose, the spirit said. They can keep holding tight to what they have and watch it all turn to dust. Or they can give freely, without knowing what they will receive. They must prove their hearts can be soft again. Amina's mind raced. What could they give? Food? Animals? Gold. But the spirit had said of the heart. Then a cold idea came to her. Does it mean a life? She whispered. Must someone die? The spirit's eyes softened, just a little. Death is not the only sacrifice, it said. Sometimes the harder thing is to live differently, to change, to let go of pride, to share what you love most. The mist thickened, reaching up to Amina's face. But the choice must be spoken by you, the spirit said. You are the one we called, or the voice of your people now. Will Incala change, or will it drown in its own greed? Amina's chest felt like a drum beaten from inside. She thought of her mother, of the children, the laughter they used to share at the fire, of the hungry faces she had seen when food was short. She knew the truth. Her people had become afraid of losing what they had, so they had held too tightly. And in holding too tightly, they had already begun to lose. Amina lifted her head. Her voice trembled, but it did not break. Spirit, she said, I cannot offer another person's life. I have no right. But I can offer myself. The river went silent. I will be the first, Amina said, tears running down her face. When I return, I will give away what I love most. My own share of food, my own comfort, my own place by the fire. I will live as the smallest in the village so others can see and follow. I will remind them to thank the land and to share with the poor. I will not let them forget again. The spirit's eyes burned brighter. Do you truly agree to this, child? It asked. You will live with less, while others have more. You will choose to be last, so others can be first. It is not an easy path. Amina swallowed hard. Fear screamed inside her. But the little flame in her chest burned strong now. Yes, she said. If that is what it takes to save Enciela, I agree. The river spirit raised its hands. The water around her glowed. Then so it shall be, the spirit said. For the courage of one small heart, the land will open its hand again. But remember, if your people forget once more, the curse will return, darker than before. A burst of silver light rushed from the river, wrapping Amina in cool brightness. For a moment she felt herself fall and rise at the same time. Then everything went dark. When Amina opened her eyes, she was lying at the edge of the forest, near Nikala. The sun was rising. Birds called from the trees. Her body felt sore, but she was alive. The leather charm was still around her neck. The staff was still in her hand. She sat up slowly. From somewhere ahead she heard laughter, sweet sound of rushing water. It's the crackle of a big, strong fire. She stood and ran toward the village. What she saw made her stop and stare. The well was full, shining with clear water. Women filled their calabashes, smiling and talking. Children splashed each other and laughed. The central fire burned bright, its flames warm and golden. Smoke rose gently into the sky. "The curse is broken," someone shouted. "Amina," cried her mother, running toward her and wrapping her in a tight hug. "My child, you returned." The people of Enkala surrounded her. King Jabari stepped forward, his face full of relief and respect. "You did it," he said. "You faced the spirits and saved us. You will have the best food, the warmest place by the fire. We will build you a new hut." "We will," Amina shook her head. Her voice was soft but firm. "No, my king," she said. "That is not the way." The crowd fell silent. "At the River of Echoes, the spirit told me the truth," she said. "We broke our promise. We forgot to give thanks. We forgot to share, became greedy and afraid." The land did not turn away from Muzwi, turned away from the land. Her eyes swept across the faces around her. Some looked guilty. Some looked ashamed. Some looked ready to run from the truth. "The spirits have given us another chance," Amina continued. "But there is a price. We must change how we live. I will give up what I love most, my own comforts, my own place as equal. I will live simply and share what I have. I will be the first to follow the old promise again." Her mother's eyes filled with tears. "Amina, you don't have to." "Yes, Mama," Amina said gently. "I do. The spirits listened because I offered my heart. If I break that promise now, the curse will return." Mama Essie stepped forward, leaning on her staff. Her eyes shone with pride. "Listen well," the priestess said. "This child has walked where warriors fear to go. She has spoken to the river itself. Her words are not just her own, they carry the weight of the spirits." Elder Kofi nodded slowly. "Then we must follow her," he said. "We must open our hands again." And so, from that day, things changed in Enkala. When the harvest came, the first baskets of grain were given to the poor and the old, not stored in the king's hut. When a hunter caught many animals, he shared the meat even with those who could not hunt. At every meal, the people gave thanks out loud to the land, to the river, to the sky. Amina kept her promise. She ate last. She took the smallest portion. When someone had nothing, she shared her own little. When others boasted of their wealth, she reminded them of the drought and the silent fire. Sometimes people forgot and tried to give her special gifts, but she always smiled and said, "Remember why the well is full? Remember why the fire burns?" Over time, the village grew rich in more than food. They grew rich in kindness, in unity, in gratitude. Children learned the story of the girl who was afraid of deep water, but walked to the River of Echoes. Mothers and fathers told it by firelight, with the drums beating softly in the background. Years later, people still said that when the moon was bright and the night was quiet, if you listened carefully by the baobab tree, you could hear a soft voice in the wind. Do not forget. Moral of the story? True courage is not only the bravery to face danger, true courage is the strength to change the heart. A village that holds too tightly to its blessings will lose them. The people who share, give thanks, and care for the weakest among them will never truly be poor. Amina was small, but her choice was great. She showed that one honest heart can break a powerful curse. One brave promise can awaken a whole village. When we live for others, we save ourselves too.